Hello and welcome to The Breakdown with Orla Shinaway and...
Greg Rutherford.
I thought you were going to say something else there. That was it.
I like that. It's plain and simple.
Brand new podcast from Eurosport and Discovery. We can still call it brand new, can't we? This is episode 3.
I think so, yeah. It's pretty new and pretty exciting.
It's been going really well, hasn't it? As I say, this is the 3rd episode. We've had Mark Cavendish, we've had Jamie Chadwick. If you haven't had a chance to listen to those yet, please do. But it's been lovely to finally get these conversations out and to get a little bit of, well, to build an audience, first of all, which is a privilege, but to get some feedback, which has been lovely, hasn't it? My mints have just dropped on the floor. Don't need mints for a podcast, but anyway.
No, it has been brilliant, and just again, responses have been lovely. So really enjoying it. And there's always a thing, isn't it? When you're working hard at something, you're trying to bring something that we really love doing, and we've had incredible conversations, and then other people are responding to it as well. That's fantastic. So I think we're very fortunate it's gone so well. But it's most certainly a lot of hard work from a lot of people to get it here. Yeah,
it's been lovely to open it up a little bit. So let's talk about today's guest then. I've been really excited about this podcast, actually. Partly because of the guest anyway. So Chris Hoy, I'll just spoil it already, get it out there. One of the most successful Olympians in British history. And now a motor racing driver. And just an incredibly interesting, intelligent person.
Very.
So I was looking forward to it anyway, but it became such a personal conversation and one that I wasn't expecting to have even a week before. We were going to talk to him about focus, mental focus, and how we can all learn lessons from him because it's something that he's renowned for and it's something I'm fascinated by. But a few days before we sat down to record, a very dear friend of mine and of Chris's died unexpectedly in his sleep. I'd known for a few days and Chris found out the night before we recorded and I wasn't sure if we would go ahead with the recording or not. And we did, and I'm so grateful that we did. Because I feel like on a personal level, myself and Chris got something very special out of it, but it opened up an entirely new conversation that, as I say, I wasn't expecting and brought a totally different side to Chris to the fore as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think for all of us, never expected to be talking about grief in such a way and so raw and recent. That's the other thing as well. I mean, you can have these conversations with people and their experiences and whatever else, but when it's just that second happened, and we really saw a devastated side, of course yourself as well, but Chris, yeah, I didn't expect to see or witness that, and it was incredible of him to give him some symbol yourself to actually still go through and do something like that, and actually you probably get an even better response in a way because it is that raw. It's all of those emotions you're still trying to process. So to give that time was incredible, but I think for everybody listening, they get a real insight into what it's like, and there'll be so many people that have gone through it, either recently or within their lives, that will be able to sort of resonate with what's said. I think it was very, very special and very deep and sort of difficult to listen to at times, to be honest, as well. Myself, the person there that didn't know such a wonderful human, and to hear how incredible he was, made me sort of wish I did know him. But I think it was a lovely conversation to still have, and I think it will help a lot of people.
Yeah, and as you say, it felt like we were listening to and witnessing Chris process the fact that this person who was so big in his life had gone, and I do think that's something that is probably very common in grief. I've been lucky. I've only lost people who have died in the normal cycle of life. I've never lost someone before their time, so I don't know what it's like until now. But it was a lovely conversation. We moved on from grief. It's not all sad. It was beautiful. So without further ado, let's have a little listen then to The Breakdown with Sir Chris Hoy. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
To our podcast. We are here in London ahead of what's supposed to be hopefully a nice glitzy event, the launch.
I'm very impressed with your studio here.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
We don't
Is this
usually...
what you always have?
I wasn't invited to the glitzy event though. I was.
You were.
Unless this is
it.
This is it.
Oh, this is
it.
Fine.
Me and Chris are going to the glitzy event. We're sending you on your way after that, but we'll make this the glitz. We were supposed to really be sitting down and chatting to you about lots of different things, and I was really interested to talk to you about mental focus, and it's difficult right now because you and I are going through something. We've both lost a very, very, very dear friend of ours this week, Richard Moore, and I guess I'm struggling, and I know that you're really feeling his loss. And the fact that we've got to go on stage later and smile in front of a room full of people, many of whom knew and loved Richard as well, is just really difficult. And I was actually just wondering before you came whether there are any analogies, whether there are any tips you can even give as to how you block, I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but how you block out any pain and grief when you've got to crack on with stuff.
I don't know. It's because in the past, whenever you're trying to focus, and the emotion that you're feeling that you're trying to block out is emotion that's distractive emotion or fear or just irrelevant to the task at hand. But when something like this happens, and it's really, I'm just, touch wood, very lucky that in my life I've so few people have passed away, that this is really unfamiliar territory and still doesn't feel real, that it almost feels that you want to let the emotion come out. Just a minute, sorry. We just stop for a minute, please?
Of course. Chris, I'm sorry.
That would be all right, this. I didn't think it was going to be as...
I know.
Yeah, it's just really hard, isn't it? It's just really difficult because you can't get your head around the fact you're not going to see him again, and that is the real kicker, isn't it? But we got the call yesterday, and you suddenly go, you're in shock, and then you suddenly think, well, maybe it's a mistake. You go through this sort of denial phase of it must be someone else. It must be someone with the same name, a different family. That that it's not for us.
Someone's got it wrong.
Someone's got it wrong, and then it slowly dawns on you that it is actually happening. It is horrendous, and then your heart breaks for his wife, for Virginie, and for his son Maxime, and you just think, it's just not fair. And life, it's one of the first things, going back to the sporting experience, one of the first things that Steve Peters ever said to me was, life's not fair. Why do you expect it to be fair? It's not, you can stamp your feet and you can, have a little tantrum, but it's not going to change anything. And the sooner you accept that, the better. And it isn't fair, is it? It's just so kind of unreal at this stage. He was 49, and 48, sorry, and he passed away in his sleep. For him, he would have known nothing about it, which is the sort of one mercy of it all. But for those left behind, it's just there's so many questions. And the worst thing about it for me as well, it's just you immediately think, oh, I wish I'd told him how much he meant to me. I wish, I just had so much respect and love for the guy. He was just an amazing individual, amazing human being. And, we had so many fun times and, racing trips, and he was there for all the big races. And one of the first people you saw after, you finish your race, you come down to the track centre, and there's all the journalists are there, and he's the one you go to speak to first because, well, he was the one that's been with you from day one. In fact, he was the first journalist that I ever did an interview with for Cycling Weekly. So me and Craig were, I think we're about like 19 and 22 or something, just at the very start of our career. He was from Edinburgh. He was still cycling at that point. He was a teammate at that point too, at the Commonwealth Games. And he did a little article about these two sprinters from Scotland who were trying to make it onto the British team and following the footsteps of Stuart Bryden and Eddie Alexander from the City of Edinburgh Racing Club. And, he lived, or his mum and dad lived just like about 5 minutes away from my mum and dad's house. And little did I know then that our lives would sort of be intertwined through his career, going from an athlete into becoming a journalist and then writing books. And he wrote my autobiography with me. We did Heroes, Villains and Velodromes together. He came out to Bolivia to the world record attempt in La Paz. And
children of a similar age as well.
Similar age. And it's just unfathomable what's happened. And it just, I know that every day people are losing people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it any easier. And the one thing you think, well, geez, if you knew, if you knew when your time was coming, you would just not worry about all the little stupid things that stress you out and that are so trivial. You look back and think, God,
I know. What's the point?
But, yeah.
It's reality hit, isn't it? Every single time something like that happens, just puts all of everything else, the smallest things, all into perspective. And that's the biggest thing. I think through sport, I had a very similar situation at the 2008 Olympics. And it was absolutely brutal just before I left, losing my granddad and having to try and deal with the first person I'd ever lost in my life. And then trying to deal with everything through it. Like you said, life isn't fair, everything else. But it is one of those things, isn't it? It doesn't get any easier. But with time, you then start to accept, you never move on, but you deal with it. And it's, for you guys, it's how I didn't know the guy, but from all accounts, sounded like an incredibly wonderful human. And for somebody myself, I've only really ever lost one very close person to me. That was back in 2008. It's just one of those things that from the sadness eventually just comes all of those moments of joy that you always spent together. And that was always the big thing that I sort of latched onto, and I attempted to latch onto when I first had it. But as I say, time goes on, it definitely never easier. But you learn, I think, to adapt slightly in that way.
But how did you get through that in 2008 then? Because, you know, I reference the fact that it's tiny, it's not an Olympic Games. We've just got to launch, we've just got to stand on stage later and smile and be excited about something that is exciting, you know, but we've got to pretend that that's the only emotion that we're feeling right then, instead of this like gaping hole, this black hole of grief and confusion and shock. How did you deal with that as you're in the biggest stage of your life as it was then?
Well, badly for me. Sadly, I was a very young man at the time as well. I like to say 21. I now feel significantly older, obviously now. And I didn't really know what to do with it. I sadly missed a funeral, and something that I massively regret, actually. I left to go to Beijing rather than going to the funeral first, which to this day eats me up a little bit. So it's a really difficult thing when you have other pressures. That was always the big thing as an athlete, especially as a young athlete. There's external pressures often put on you to do certain things and act a certain way. So that was a massive regret for me. And with obviously age, I think it would have been very different if it was now. But look, for me, it was difficult, very, very difficult. I didn't know what to do with myself. And of course, you're then thrown into the biggest stage of life. That was my first Olympics. And it was badly. That's the only way to put it. I never forget standing in the stadium. And this came through in different parts of my career, actually. I'd stand in the stadium and I was just looking for a sign, because with the tragedy of what's taken place, my thought process was, well, of course, what will happen now will be a fairy tale ending. I'll go to the Olympic Games, I'll win a medal, even though nobody expected me to win a medal. And it'd be this amazing thing for my family for us to then go and deal with and whatever else and celebrate something that was from so sad to positive. And it was the complete opposite. And this is always the big thing, I think, in life in general. It's not just sport, in all life. Fairy tale that you're hoping for and you believe and you see is very rare. It really is very rare. So for me, I ended up finishing 10th in that final. So I was looking for numbers and scoreboards. I'd look at the scoreboard and I'd go, oh, well, if that person runs that race and their final number finishes in a 30-something, I'm going to jump 8:30. And it was bizarre. So I hadn't lost focus as such, but I'd lost all grip on what normality was in a competition state. But I think obviously with age and experience and everything else, and actually not having sport and yourself not having sport, you have an opportunity now to be around and do something like mourning, I guess, properly. Maybe that's the thing. So I'm a terrible example of how to deal with something like that situation in sport, because it didn't go well for me. But if anything, I'd prefer to go through it now, if that makes sense, just so I feel like I would understand how to do it a little bit more. But of course, it's always brutally hard.
Well, that's almost what you were saying, though, Chris, that sometimes, you know, we put on a face, and obviously you're going to think, well, I must go to the Olympic Games. I've been selected and it's my first Olympic Games. But you were saying it to me just before we started recording, and alluded to it just now as well. Sometimes we just shouldn't battle through it. We should actually just sit with our grief and allow ourselves to accept it, that it's unfair, that life is hard, and that's
because in sport, you are desperately trying to focus on the logic of it, of the process of what you need to do to get the best performance. You don't know if it's going to give you the result that you want. You don't know if it's going to win the medal, but you just want to produce the best performance that you're capable of on the night when it counts, and wait and see what that results in at the end of the day. But this feels so much, I feel like you need to let the grief out. You need to let it wash over you, because it's bottling it up isn't good. It's you need to have these emotions, and I think a lot of people who I've talked about, like Steve Peters, changed my life and had a huge impact in my career, but not just my career, on the way I see things in general. And when I talk about the work that I've done with him and the help it had, the benefit it gave me in competition and in stressful situations, sometimes people come back and say, well, is it not really a bit odd that you're, sort of turning into a robot and you're very focused and there's no emotion, it's all logic. And it's not that at all. So he's not trying to create or help you create a robotic state where you go around feeling completely in control all the time.
That would be horrific.
It would be awful, yeah. Because you're not human. You're not human. Exactly. So it's about giving you the skills to be able to refocus. So when you lose focus, you can't maintain focus for 24 hours a day. It's about focusing in that minute or 2 minutes or 10 seconds that you need to. And if you get a distraction, if something happens just before you're about to, if you're a tennis player just about to serve and there's a noise or distraction, refocus. You've got some technique that, initially in the early days, it takes you minutes or even an hour to get yourself in that state mentally to be really focused. But with a lot of practice and with a lot of help from Steve, I was able to refocus in the blink of an eye. Mid-race, something could happen in a race, in a keirin, for example, where it's very physical, very unpredictable. You could have a clash of shoulders or something could happen that could throw you and could make you angry and make you want to retaliate and do something stupid, which would then throw away the race. But it's about, in that blink of an eye, refocusing. It's okay, that's happened. What can I do now? And
so what is that practice then? Sorry, Greg, because I wanted to ask you as well. You said how you've had to teach yourself that, but what have you practiced over the years to make you refocus in that moment? Because it sounds impossible. That's the problem with losing focus.
To start with, it's visualization. So it's focusing on or understanding what you have control over, accepting what you don't have control over, not thinking about the end result, not thinking about fear of failure, of what if this goes wrong, not thinking about how amazing it would be to win and to become Olympic champion, to achieve your dream. Like you're saying, I could win this for my grandpa, I could do that, wouldn't it be the fairy tale ending? Positive or thinking about positive outcome can be as distracting as thinking about a negative outcome or
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was understanding what I had control over, what can you do in this situation, whether it's leading into the competition, mentally warming up, focusing on visualizing the perfect race. As you visualize, as you think about one thing, there's no space for anything else to come into your brain at that one time. So, you might think you can multitask and think about lots of things, but actually your brain is dotting about from one thing to the other. So for me, like in Athens, when I was riding the kilo, when I was aiming to become Olympic champion for the first time, and I was waiting for my one shot, there's no heats, there's no qualification, one chance, and your rivals one by one are breaking the world record before you go. And your brain really wants to panic and go, oh my God, that's faster than anyone's ever gone before. It's a new world record. I can't get close to that. But before those thoughts take hold, it's, well, I've got no control over that. So I'm going to visualize the perfect race. All I can do now is visualize this race, how I want it to go, the process of how it's going to feel. And they can do their thing. And I'm going to step on the start line, regardless of what they've done, whether it's been amazing times or not so amazing, is irrelevant. I'm here to do the job, the best job I can. When I cross the line, I'll look at the scoreboard and I'll see where I am. It's different in the keirin or the sprint where you're reacting to other people, but the principle is the same, because if you can take control, if you can be the one that's dictating the tactics, if you can be the one that's initiating the process of what you're trying to do, you give yourself the best chance. But the bottom line is, people who go into races saying, yeah, I'm going to win today, or we're going to win this match, or they're talking nonsense. You don't know.
So you say you did that in London, though?
Well, it's really interesting on that point. Now, it really is, because, so for me, the way I mentally dealt with something like London is mental rehearsal became a hugely important thing. So I never had a sleep or anybody getting behind me to sort of help with that side of thing. I never saw anybody that did it. All of mine was sort of self-taught. But what I did do...
Did you read, or did you teach yourself through experience, through talking to yourself?
Purely for experience. Look, the first half of my career was crap. It was rubbish.
But we learn more from losing than we do from winning.
Look, I lost 1,000 times more than I ever won. But what was so important leading into London is that every single day I'd walk into the woods behind my house with my dogs, and every day I would mentally rehearse winning the Olympic title. And what I did, I created every form of scenario that could possibly take place, and I would basically live commentate on my own performance. So I'd be out there walking around, and I would have other competitors that I knew would be there, and I was doing this for the years leading up, so competitors obviously change everything else. One of them may go out and jump really far, and it was like I had to go and react, and I reacted.
Is this just as you're walking, or is
it's just while I'm walking around? So, and I always find this. I love being around people, everything else, but I also love time on my own where I get to think, and I always come up with my best and probably worst plans while I'm on my own walking about with the dogs. But it helped so much because nothing was a surprise. But it was really interesting. No matter what happened, every time, no matter if I've pretending somebody broke a world record or did whatever else. The outcome was always the same, and the outcome was me winning. So when I went into the Olympic final, look, fundamentally you don't know, and I wasn't going there going, I'm definitely going to win. What I said to myself was, this is mine to lose. Because mentally I was prepared, physically I was prepared. I knew the situation and what was going on. So it was down to me to go out there and perform the best I can. But equally, winning, everything in there, every scenario had been played in my head already. So by that point, it felt like it was my opportunity.
What if you'd broken the pre-existing world record, you'd done your greatest performance ever, and someone had gone a centimetre further than that, though? But would that not? I mean, I know that I know that it's about the medals. I know that we're conditioned to the winner gets the gold medal, and that's what you're striving for. But there's times when I underperformed and would win at a World Cup, and I would come away disappointed with that. And other times where you genuinely had done the best at that time, you wouldn't go, "Oh, I'm delighted with a silver or a bronze. You know, this is what I want." Of course, it isn't. But I would go away and say, "I'm going to come back and work harder. It's going to motivate me." But at the moment, this is a reflection of where I am, and I've got to be happy with this performance.
So are you saying you visualised your best
performance,
performance,
only
and you visualised the
winning.
results?
The result was for me was definitely when it comes to London anyway. Now, it's interesting, probably 2 points here. So first and foremost, if anybody ever did anything better, instantly my head just flicked straight to, well, I'll jump further than them. That was just my default. After I started becoming partially successful anyway, that was my default. I didn't care what anybody did. And actually, I think that probably affected my competitors a lot more than it ever affected me, because there was a period of time, probably for 4 or 5 years. Now, my good patch was much shorter than yours. But during that period, I would turn up to competitions and I could already see competitors were concerned, because there was a situation, it went on for a long time. Look, I didn't always win them. I mean, I got beaten loads of times, but the ones that really mattered, there was this level of self-belief in that no matter what anybody else did, I could respond, and it didn't matter. Bear in mind, this is based off of nothing, because I didn't jump anywhere near the world record. So from my point of view, it was physically unlikely, but in my head, it was believable. And I think because of that, I probably gave over an air of people thinking, he feels good today. I was always smiling. I was always happy.
Smiling is such an important part of it.
Massive.
And it was one of the things.
Weapon to have in your
Steve always
armoury,
said to us,
isn't it?
first of all, there is a physiological response to smiling. If you even a forced smile, if you smile, then it has this sort of
We're all doing it now.
Yeah, if you smile, it does release endorphins. It has a chemical effect on your body. So Steve would say to us, first of all, smile. You're choosing to do this. This is not. You're not going to the gallows. You're not going to the gallows. This is not. And there's times where you get so caught up in the importance of what you're doing, and he's saying, look, you're riding bikes in anti-clockwise circles on a wooden track. It's not life and death. You're choosing to do this. This is your hobby that has become a career. You've got an amazing opportunity here. If you don't win, the world's not going to stop revolving. Just go out there, express yourself on the bike. Don't think about the end result. Be the best you can be, and you will perform the best you can. Whether you win or not, I can't guarantee that, but that's how you'll get the best out of yourself. And yeah, it was, but when you smile, the other side, as you've already alluded to, is that your competitors notice you're smiling. Yeah. And they think, well, what's he smiling about? He must be confident. Yeah. And you come in the track centre, big smile on, saying hello to everybody, and they're all like, oh, God, he's obviously done well.
Exactly.
And then you start to believe, you sort of fake it till you make it. You start to believe that you're,
Massively.
Well, actually, do you know what? I am feeling good. And this is the Olympics. And all the hard work is done now. I'm not having to do 20 sprints or 10 sprints, and I'm not going to be thrown up in a bucket, having a horrible day training. This is the reward. This is the reward for all the hard work. So I am going to enjoy this, regardless of what happens. And if I enjoy it, I'll give myself the best chance of winning.
Yeah, I found massively. 2014 was an interesting one. We were talking about smiling and everything else, and we talked about the endorphin release. I remember getting ready for the Commonwealth Games, so there was Commons and Europeans really close together, and I'd basically said, right, my aim this year is to try and win them both, and it was like, you can't do it. But what I found, I remember being in the village in Glasgow, and I'd started reading online text message fails, right? And I was there for hours, just obviously
chuckling to yourself.
No, but I was crying with laughter, and this was the bit, and there was something within it that made me feel so good, and it's exactly that, the endorphin release and everything you do get from smiling and laughing, but equally going to the stadium, and years before that, my first ever real big championships where I actually won a medal, Europeans in 2006. I remember sitting in the cool room, and looking around and having that moment young. I was really lucky to have that moment young of going, this is amazing, isn't it? And I was like smiling. I remember sitting back, just going, isn't this brilliant? And I could see my competitors looking at me going, what's he smiling about?
Yeah.
Why is he smiling? And instantly, it was just a reaction from them that I thought, something going on here, something different. So then when things got a bit better, and post 2012 in particular for me, it was brilliant. And exactly the same as I really like hearing other athletes that did this. So I'd go, I'd welcome, hey, you're doing really good to see you getting ready for Olympic final. He's like, shaking hands, great, haven't seen you in a few months, how's it all been going?
But were you genuinely happy as well, though? Because I'm thinking about how you would transition this, how you would learn from this and apply it to normal life, because most people do not have a field of competition to thrive in or fail in, you know, and for most people it's the office or it's a job interview.
That is a place to thrive and to succeed. 100%.
Then how do you apply that visualization technique, I guess, to normal life? Because a lot of normal life success is judged on outcome, you know, and if you're to talk to people who are into manifesting, for example, people are always manifesting the end result, not the process to get there. They want that book deal or X number of followers or that job promotion or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So how do you then apply that to your normal life? Neither of you are normal, let's be perfectly honest.
But it doesn't matter what you do. So, you know, I apply to things I do now in my life. If I'm doing a talk on stage and there could be 5,000 people, it doesn't happen very often, but, you know, there could be a big event where, you know, you're asked to come and say a few words at an event and it's a big audience and you've prepared a keynote speech and you start to get the pre-event nerves and it's very similar to that feeling of competition and part of me is thinking, oh no, what if I forget what I'm talking about? What if I fluff it? What if I go off topic? You know,
and that can be enough to throw you there.
Yeah, and
visualizing the thing going wrong.
Yeah,
makes
and then
you
you start you're going down this rabbit hole of oh my god, it's going to go terribly. Or the audience, you know, I can hear they're not really responding well to the person that's on before me, and before that, those negative thoughts take hold. I think, do you know what? I've been asked to come here. They're an audience that are, you know, I'm not trying to win them over. It's an easy job I've got. If you're someone out there trying to deliver bad news or convince a group of people to do something they don't want to do, then you've got a tough gig. Or, you know, if you're a stand-up comic that's walking in, you know, to a tough crowd, they're sitting there with their arms folded, waiting for you to make them laugh. Whereas you go in and you get a little montage video, you get a round of applause. Oh yeah, I remember London. Oh, London was great. Oh yeah, who's this guy? The cycling. Oh yeah, I think I remember him. And you get this positive energy. You go, oh, this is great. And not everybody's going to have a great experience before they start doing what they're about to do. But if you can go in there and be prepared, for me, preparation was absolutely central. I used to have terrible times at school if I hadn't revised for exams. I'd go in there and have these terrible moments of I should have prepared for this. I'm an idiot. I should have done more.
I can tell you that was my entire school life.
Well, yeah, and
it didn't go well for me.
So it basically became this
right,
your future self. What would you say to your future? Or what would your future self say to you? You know, after this race or after this speech or after this event, whatever it is presentation at work or whatever a big thing that's coming up. It's like, just do the preparation. You can't guarantee it's going to be brilliant. You can't guarantee you're going to get the outcome you want, but do the work. Be prepared, as Baden-Powell would say, and and just give it your best shot, because not everyone can win the gold medal, and you can't. You can go out there and say, yeah, if you do this, you're going to win the gold medal. You're not. Not everybody. There's only one person in that final can get that gold medal, and all the guys in your final will have trained bloody hard. They'll all on their day be as good as anybody else in the world. One person gets that gold medal, and that's why it's so special. And we teach our kids about go out there and just enjoy yourself and work hard. You can't say to them you're going to win if you are the best. If you try your hardest, you're going to win, because it doesn't work that way.
Steve Peter says life is unfair.
Well, life is unfair, but my point is that you have to enjoy the process. So the reward is the process. The reward is doing what you love doing. And if you get the gold medal at the end, it's the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. It's amazing, but
it's really hard to learn that in life.
But it is. But it took me so long to get that. I used to, what was it? Comparison is the thief of joy. Looking at what other people are doing, looking at their performances, consistently measuring yourself against them, looking at what they're doing in their lives, what are the Instagram, fear of missing out, all the comparing yourself to the people is the worst thing you can do. And I did it. I used to do it in training. We had a little training book that the coach would write the times down. So you do, old school, none of the computers back in those days. It was a stopwatch and a book, and they would write the times down. And in the team, you'd have guys like Jason Quealy, Craig McLean, Jamie Staff, Jason Kenny in later years, Ross Edgar, real world-class sprinters who were your teammates, but you were competing against them, and they were fighting for a place to either maybe one spot in the Olympics amongst you. So you're constantly competing. And in the early years, I would be looking at their times. I'd finish my effort, come over, look at my time, and then compare it to theirs, which you might think, well, that's natural. But the point is that what if they're having a good day or a bad day? It's going to affect you're reflecting it on yourself. Oh, I'm beating him, that's great. Maybe he's got a cold. Maybe he's got an injury. Maybe he's not feeling that great. Or he's faster than me. Oh no, he's starting to get better now, and maybe he's having an amazing day, or he's rested, or whatever. You just don't know what's going on. So
controlling the controllables, that is always a big thing. I think it's important probably in life as well. So it was tell some anecdotes. When I had a younger group that I was training with, and I became sort of the older guy, they became obsessed with seeing what other people's times would be. And we're talking, say, April,
it's human
May.
nature as well, isn't it?
The problem is to then allow that to affect you and turn your day into a negative day, or your session into a negative session, based upon something that somebody's doing 2,000 miles away in another competition. It doesn't have. So you have to learn to control what you do. So if you turn up to work, the track, or whatever it is, you can only influence what you do in that. Unless somebody's obviously coming over and attacking you, they're getting in your way a little bit. But if you go in every single day thinking, I will do the best that I can do, irrespective of what others are doing, you start to learn, and I believe you develop a level of strength, if you like, to actually just deal with what you're doing each day.
And yet we're consolidating and strengthening this feeling within society, within ourselves, that comparison is the only form of validation, as you say, with Instagram, with social media. And for our kids, that's what it's going to be. If you don't have enough likes in your blinking picture, or you don't have enough followers, so how do you teach kids, and through teaching the kids ourselves, to be strong enough in whatever it is that we're doing without caring what other people think, because what other people think has never mattered more.
Well, to me, it's the only person you should compare yourself to is yourself yesterday, and seeing if you're making progress.
I was a mess yesterday, so I'm doing all right today.
Yeah, exactly. I was a mess 10 minutes.
Crying.
I was a mess 10 minutes ago, so I'm doing better now. But it's, like my wee boy Callum does Taekwondo. He's been doing it for about 2 or 3 months now. He goes twice a week. Enjoys it. He's not super sporty. He's not really mad keen on sport, but this is one thing he's shown an interest in. So we take him there twice a week. And he said to me, I said, oh, you did really well today. And he said, Daddy, I'm really bad at Taekwondo. And I was like, you're not bad at it. He said, I'm not as good as so-and-so, and I'm not as good as so. I said, but you're better than you were last week, weren't you? And he's like, yeah. He said, you're kicking higher than you were. You're learning the moves. You can count to 5 in Korean. He's like, oh yeah, I can't. So
that's when you be my life coach. You come and tell me these things, and I'm having a bad day.
But it is about comparing yourself to where you were. If you're making progress, and everybody improves at different rates, particularly when we're kids. So as a kid, I used to play rugby. I used to do other sports, and in rugby in particular, I was probably the second smallest in the team. I played standoff. I was fly half, and I was the kicker. So I used to take the kick off, and I would restart the match, kick the ball, and I would have this uncanny ability of landing it in the arms of the biggest guy in their team, who then would run straight back at me. And I stand there thinking, oh God, it's happening again. Shut your eyes, and you get taken out by this giant of, a 6 foot tall 12-year-old with a moustache. And
There's always one of them, weren't there?
Yeah, every team. And that's the point. So think about this guy who gets, I'm great at rugby because I score 4 tries every match. And everyone, I'm the star player of the team. And then over the years, everyone else catches up. He might have just hit puberty at the age of 12 or whatever, and all of a sudden he hasn't had to learn all the skills, and he's been so strong physically and bigger and just have that advantage that he doesn't enjoy rugby because he's not scoring 4 tries a game anymore, and he gives up. So to me, it's trying to get the message across to kids, or to my kids, or anyone that listen, that you just be better than you were yesterday. Look at your own progression. Don't worry about anyone else. If you're still improving, that's all you can ask for. And trying to enjoy the process and enjoy what you do, because what's the point otherwise?
I just want to ask, just really quickly, because you mentioned Steve Peters saying how life is unfair and you have to accept it. And I'm keen to get closure on that. How do you make your peace with that?
With Richard, you mean, or with life in general?
I'm thinking about the unfairness of Richard, my friend who's died. How do you make your peace with it all being unfair?
I think you put yourself in the position of Richard, and you think, what would he want right now? What would he be wanting us to do? Would he be wanting us to sit around feeling utterly heartbroken, or would he want us to be sitting around talking, telling stories about all this stupid stuff we got up to, all the amazing places we went to, the places that he saw, the things that he did, reading his books. I mean, what a life he's led to have all this amazing array of work that he's done, which, Maxime can read when he's older, when he can, he's left a legacy behind, which is an amazing thing to have. We all would have a legacy of different scales of whatever we're into, whatever line of work or whatever our hobbies are. But to have something that you can physically pick up and go, my dad wrote this, and isn't that an amazing thing for Richard? So be there for Virginie and for Maxime and for all his friends, and let's just enjoy telling stories about his life.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a beautiful conversation that was with Sir Chris Hoy. And even watching it back and listening to it back, I feel like I got more from it the second time and the third time, because I've listened to it a few times now. And I feel like what he said about being better today than you were yesterday, that has come back to me over and over again in all the littlest ways. Like even when parenting, for example, because that's the one thing that is no achievable end to it, and it's the most difficult job in the world, I think. But sometimes I think, okay, well, if I'm a little bit more patient today than yesterday, or usually I project it forward to tomorrow, I think it's not too bad today. I can be more patient with them tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it comes back to me a lot, that one.
No, I think it's just not stressing about seeing the ultimate perfect end product. Everybody's obsessed with it, aren't they? What it should look like at the end, but that process of getting there, I think the way Chris put it together, it was utterly perfect and similar. I've even been talking to people about him saying that, and I think it really has. And there'll be a lot of people that have just watched that and listened and gone, wow, that makes complete and utter sense. And I think it's just trying to take away some of that pressure from you. Every single day, there is so much thrown at us through social media, through expectations that we have on the school run, as you say, with parenting and things. There's so much out there, but actually focusing on yourself and the little things, and actually, as I said, being better than you were the day before and moving on from that, etc. It's a brilliant way of doing it. And I think it's worked incredibly well.
I think it's one of the hardest things of modern life is losing that expectation and trying not to see yourself through the eyes of others, but seeing your own worth for how you are and judging yourself by your own standards rather than anybody else's standards.
Yeah, and it is the issue now, isn't it? Everywhere you turn, there is something that's trying to ram something else down your throat, or the perfect idea of what other people see or choose to let you see as what is perfect. And that's what we need to be really mindful of, I think. We have to actually step away from all of that and know that every single person, doesn't matter their situation, they'll have bad days, things won't go well, but as long as we can all develop and try and be better each day, it's a great way of looking at it. Never ever focus on what everybody else is doing, just worry about yourself.
Yeah, and better by your own standards, not by anybody else's standards. Well, speaking of better, we did have our latest instalment of our own little competition where we're trying to better each other. When we say take that weight of expectation off your shoulders, I mean, that all goes out the window when it comes to rock, paper, scissors, doesn't it?
I really enjoyed this rock, paper, scissors. I'm not saying because I won or anything like
No
that. I'm not throwing it out
spoiler
there. No
alerts,
spoiler, no,
Greg.
but it's just Chris's reaction to this.
But not his reaction, his approach to this.
Well, yeah, him trying to get... Well, you'll see. There's a little bit of mind games maybe going on this one. It's a very exciting rock, paper, scissors, shall we say.
There is a reason that Sir Chris Hoy became so successful, and a lot of it was in how he approached things, his methodology, and trying to psych his rivals out of it. Did it work, though? That's the question. Let's see. Before we go, there is something very important that we do need to do, and that is rock, paper, scissors.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Let's do it.
Here we go.
Right.
Off round one.
Okay, we'll go with that. Should we just go straight to the end result, where I win?
I'm just going to visualise me winning.
I was thinking
exactly.
that. I was thinking that.
It's not,
for a dog walk?
it's not about it's not about the
Dog
winning. I don't care whether I win or not. It's the process of unfurling my paper.
Very good. Can I just say before we do this, Chris was trying to convince us earlier that there is a technique to rock, paper, scissors. And it's all in the split second before you play your hand and you can see the other person. And we did a little trial and I beat you. So it doesn't work.
I'm going to say paper.
Don't!
You will find, by the way, that this is one of the most important things in the world to all us.
Yeah,
like, genuinely.
Because
it's so important.
I'm sitting down with multiple Olympic champions. And it's the only thing I can ever take as my legacy. Beating Olympians at anything.
Okay then. All right. Okay.
Sorry, so you got one.
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So rock, paper, scissors,
Stop
paper.
it! Because I'm like triple guessing everything. Right, you ready? Go.
Okay. Right. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Damn you, Chris Hoy! Damn Well, I just thought, like, he's not going to do paper after all of that.
Good game, guys. Good game.
Oh,
Thank you.
whatever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
congratulations.
I didn't celebrate like that when I became Olympic champion. So it shows. Maybe it does mean a little bit to me as well. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.